Okay, to kick us off, let's begin with some introductions. So for those who haven't met me before, I'm Tim Barclay. I'm the CEO of Appello. I've been here for the last 4 and a bit years and really excited about what we're going to talk to you in terms of today's announcement, if you want to call it that, but our overview of the products we're adding to the portfolio, joined by 2 colleagues. So Mark and Ian, in that order, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Mark Stratford. I'm the Commercial Director for Appello. I've been here about 1.5 years, but I've worked in the kind of telecare industry now for about 30 years.
Hi everyone, I'm Ian Hockings. I'm Head of Marketing at Appello. I'll be running the webinar today and monitoring questions. So if you want to use the Q&A functionality at the top or possibly the bottom of your screen, we'll be answering questions at the end.
I'm sure all of you have spent many hours on Zoom meetings over the weeks, months that have preceded this, so you should all be very familiar with it. But if you need any question, if you need any help, use the chat function and we'll provide support. The question and answers is perfect for anybody who's got something that they think is pertinent. We'll answer all of those at the end, and we look forward to hopefully a good, engaging and useful session for you. So let's start with a bit of context. If we move on to the next slide, Ian. The purpose of today is to give you an overview of our SmartTEC portfolio and how we're augmenting that in the months to come. SmartTEC is the name we use for the umbrella set of products that are in both the dispersed and communal living portfolio, and if you move on to the next slide, Ian, they're all underpinned by one common theme, which is they are end-to-end digital. On the left-hand side, we've got 2 devices, or 2 systems, I should say. Smart Living Solutions, which has been around for about 4 years or so, which is the UK's leading fully digital communal living system for enhanced well-being. Over 350, nearly 400 or so now sites, best part of 20,000 end residents whose lives have been improved by Smart Living Solutions, and it's given us both the experience and the front-facing customer feedback that's helped us evolve the rest of the portfolio. We announced at the earlier part of this year that we were adding to our group scheme solutions with Smart Connect, and I'll say a few more words about that in a moment or two. We've had a dispersed alarm in our portfolio, Smart Alert, for a number of years now, and today we're adding to that with Smart Life, and we'll tell you more about how Smart Life fits in against all these other products over the coming slides. So Ian, on to the next one. The first starting point, as I mentioned, for all of our digital experience came from Smart Living Solutions, and it was built around, as all of our products are, built around a set of market needs and end customer and customer requirements. The upgrade of the UK telecoms network to digital is widely understood and known by everybody, so I won't dwell on that. But what it has presented is an opportunity for transformation of living experiences, to take a beige box off the wall and replace it with something that is non-stigmatizing, that is value added both to the property and to the residents. It gives greater productivity for the housing teams, as well as greater peace of mind and well-being for the residents, and it's proven at scale. If anybody hasn't yet and would like more details, including site visits to see it in real situ, then please do get in touch. The next product in our connected scheme, portfolio for schemes is Smart Connect, and this is designed to still be end-to-end digital, but it's for those people who are looking to replace existing systems rather than necessarily upgrade the the quality of the living experience for their residents. It has an important distinction versus smart living solutions, which is that it can be used with existing wiring. We would never actively recommend that, because the benefits of digital are better employed when you have new Cat5 or Cat6 cable that not only future-proofs the products, but also gives the certainty that there hasn't been degradation in the cabling over years. But for a number of reasons, it's not always possible or desirable to install new cabling, and Smart Connect is compatible, as I said, with existing wiring, but also with fully digital Cat5 or Cat6, depending on what housing providers prefer. So those are our suite of products for communal living. And in terms of dispersed alarms for individual living settings, we launched Smart Alert. It says Smart Life, but we mean Smart Alert a couple of years ago. And it has some really, really great features about it. Firstly, it has a voice activated extended alarm, which can really help with the risk of no speech calls. The separate alarm can be placed in additional rooms in the apartment, or house. So it can be in a bedroom, as well as a bathroom, for example, or hallway, to give the extra reassurance of being able to contact and speak to the residents to and from the monitoring centre. As any of you work in the sector will know, no speech calls and the associated concerns for welfare that they create are a major risk, and Smart Alert has been a big step in helping a number of organisations work out how they overcome those risks. What we're adding to our dispersed alarm portfolio is Smart Life, and it is likely to be available from August or so of this year, and we'll talk about pilots and trials being available before that. It plays on a couple of really important themes. The first is, as does Smart Alert, the opportunity or the necessity to recognise that 3G networks are going to be retired over the years to come, and therefore it is a 4G enabled device or capable device. It has focused on a couple of things which are really important in the feedback we've been provided with, which is interoperability and future proofing. In terms of interoperability, what we mean is it is able to connect to a number of different peripheral devices from various manufacturers, and we'll touch on that in a bit more detail in a moment or two. And in terms of future proofing, because it has a variety of different connectivity mechanisms, and Mark will talk about those later, it gives adaptability about how residents may connect to and use the device. It's important to say that although the picture doesn't show it with wires, it is intended to be and will be a permanently powered device. So it does, and as with all dispersed alarms, it does anticipate being plugged into a socket. If we move on, please, Ian. The reason we focused so much, and the reason that interoperability was so important, and the reason that there has been so much discussion about the importance of interoperability, both from the TSA, from the Health and Social Care Department, and from Scottish Government, just as examples, the important thing is that interoperability gives some level of assurance that existing investments can be reused, and that future devices will be able to be part of an ecosystem, as opposed to being standalone islands that are dedicated to just one manufacturer. We've got a really nice little video which explains some of the benefits, which we'll show you in a second, but just to reinforce what we mean by interoperability, it is this ability to interconnect with devices from a variety of manufacturers. So it may well be, and we know it is the case, that a vast number of dispersed alarms have been provided with an associated set of peripherals likely to be, or almost certainly, from the same manufacturer. What we want to try and do is, for environmental reasons, for cost reasons, and for familiarity of the end users, we want to be able to reuse those peripherals wherever possible. Organisations like CARE, like Tunstall, have made great strides in developing a really good portfolio of peripheral products, and rather than necessarily have to throw those away because the devices, because the dispersed alarm needs upgrading to digital, we've focused on being interoperable so that you get that ongoing use and certainty and familiarity that the end user has with those peripheral devices. So Ian, on to the next slide, please, which is our video.
So just picking up a little bit more detail now about the unit itself and what it's actually offering. So I'm going to start with the digital piece. So as Tim's already mentioned, the unit can be plugged into a broadband router. So it's got an RJ45, so we can plug it in and it can work over the broadband network. It also has a 4G roaming SIM. That's a non-steered roaming SIM. So the primary carrier can be mobile, and we've also got Wi-Fi as well, so we can actually connect the unit to a local Wi-Fi source as well as plugging it in, as well as having a 4G SIM. Now, in terms of communication, we've embedded SCAPE, so the EN 50134-9, the European Standard Social Alarm Protocol, that's been embedded in the unit. We've also embedded Now IP. Now, BS8521-2 is a UK protocol. It's predominantly used more for hardwired scheme type equipment, social alarm type equipment, because it has more functionality, it's more feature rich. But what we're finding is some monitoring centres only support one protocol or another. So what we've done is embedded both protocols so that we can use either of the European and UK standard digital protocols, and it's switchable, so we can use both. One of the other key pieces is that we've also embedded analog connectivity. Now that might sound a bit retrospective, but the idea with this unit is I can plug it into a standard telephone line with a normal PSTN connection in the back, using BS8521 analog protocol. I can plug it in, switch the unit on, and I can use the unit as an analog unit to start with. Now, the point behind that is when we're doing our market research and looking out into the marketplace, there's a lot of monitoring centres that still aren't ready to receive digital signals. And that's a worry because, we haven't got that long until BT get to the point of saying, okay, 100% of the UK network's upgraded. But there is that transition period where customers are still looking to buy units and plug in to use them before they've got to light up SIMs and change the way that they pay for the units. So the idea behind this unit is I can take it now as a standard analog unit. I can plug it into a BT line. I can have a SIM in the unit, which is dormant. Once the analog transition takes place, sorry, the digital transition takes place, I can remotely switch this unit to be a digital unit. Now, depending on how I program that unit, I can take a decision as the commissioner, say, right, I'm now going to switch to digital. I can send an over-the-air signal, the SIM will light up, it will disconnect the BT line, and I've got a digital unit signaling SCAPE or now IP. I can also set the unit to say that if the telephone line ceases to exist, so if somebody's unplugged it, or if the service provider has cut off the analog connectivity, then the unit will automatically sense there's no voltage from the telephone line. It will light up the SIM and it will switch into digital mode, and it will remain as a digital unit. And I think this is really important because we are in that transition period right now, and during that transition period, I think there's still a mix of customers that are thinking, well, I can still buy an analog unit and use it for maybe a year, 2 years, without having to pay for a SIM and without having to change the way things go. So this gives you the opportunity to phase into the digital era. Now, looking at the compatibility, Tim's already mentioned there's a number of peripherals. So we have, and what I'll say, as long as these are 869 peripherals, so the new European standard protocol for radio protocol, so it's compatible with Appello peripherals, so it will work with that with ours. It's compatible with care peripherals, and it's compatible with Tunstall peripherals. And again, as Tim's already mentioned, the point is if we change a unit into a digital unit, we can put this unit in. If you have Tunstall or care peripherals, you can reprogram those peripherals to this unit and they'll carry on working. So it's the flexibility, it's the ability to move forward. In terms of audio performance, something that we've been very mindful of is that in our world, audio is really, really important for the customer, for the monitoring centre. So we spent a lot of time testing this unit to make sure the speech is really, really clear, really crisp, and we can get really good volume and really good reception so the monitoring centre can hear as well. So it's high quality speakers, high quality microphones. So we've been really clear about making sure that all the relevant standards are met or exceeded when designing this unit. So we go to the next slide here. So a few of the other bits that come into this system, into this unit. So it's got an integrated ambient temperature sensor, so we can program ambient temperature. Now, Tim's already mentioned about the Essence unit, which has a remote speaker, and the remote speaker can also generate an alarm and has a voice functionality. Now, we don't have that, but what we do have is the unit supports Bluetooth. So it means that I can buy a cheap Bluetooth extension audio speaker with a microphone in it. And if there's an alarm call on the system, we can use the Bluetooth speaker as a remote speaker. Now, it won't generate an alarm. It's got no voice activation. But what it does mean is it cuts down on the no speech calls that monitoring centres suffer from on a daily basis, where somebody's in a different room to the actual unit. So we can take a Bluetooth speaker. It can be battery or mains fed. And we can use that as an extension speaker for this unit. We've also got more than the normal 1 or 2 buttons. So we've got an away button, which is programmable. So we've got an away function. We've also got an I'm OK function. Now, all Appello products are managed and are supported by Appello Cloud Systems. So it means that I can log on to a cloud service. I can see all of my equipment. I can see my whole estate. I can see what state they're in. I can see when they last polled. I can see the battery state. I can see if they're in an alarm state. So huge amounts of information. So we also have an I'm OK function. So it means that a user can press the I'm OK button and it'll actually register on Appello Cloud Services so that a caregiver can say, okay, that person's okay, or they're not okay. So it's the lead up now to looking at more proactive services. So I think we've talked in the industry for quite some time about proactive services and how we're more proactive in what we deliver. The difficulty is what those services look like and how you target them and how you form them. So I'm OK is the start of being able to say, okay, if I have a cohort of people who want or need some form of proactive service, some will elect to take it, some won't. So if they're going out, if they're not available, if they don't want the service today, they can press a button, I'm okay, and they can skip the service. So it's starting to have that kind of two-way communication between the resident and the monitoring centre or whoever's delivering the care. I think that's really important moving forward. And that's what's going to expand in this type of marketplace. So we've talked about the audio, we've got echo cancellation, really, really clear speech. Talked about the LAN connection, so it's LAN and it's Wi-Fi and it's a SIM. The built-in battery has a 24-hour backup. And what we've done is we've said that's 24-hour backup with at least 30 minutes talk time. So even if the unit's used for half an hour during that period, we've still got 24-hour battery backup. Now, what will come later in the year is things like extended battery backup. So we can put it into a stand and we can extend that battery backup for up to 60 hours. Two more important pieces that I just want to touch on really. The first thing is over-the-air upgrades. Now, everything on this unit is standard. So Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all the great things I've mentioned, they're standard. This isn't something that you pay for extra that we light up. This is how the unit comes shipped to you. But what we can do is, as things move forward and as we think of other services that we can add or other things we can do with the buttons, we can upgrade all of the units simultaneously over the air. So one of the things that we can do now is we can do things like dimming the buttons. So if the unit's in a bedroom, we can dim the lights down on the button so that it doesn't affect anybody when they're in bed. But as time moves forwards and we issue new software upgrades, we can change all of these things. Programming, updating is all done over the air and is simultaneously. So I can reprogram one unit, I can reprogram 1,000 units. So if I'm moving my monitoring provider, if my monitoring provider makes changes, I can reprogram my entire estate within an hour. The last bit I want to pick up is heartbeats. The unit heartbeats, and they're configurable, so they can be set from under an hour up to 24 hours plus if we wish. But the key to this unit is it heartbeats to a cloud service. Why does it do that? Because a cloud service was designed to receive those heartbeats. Now, heartbeating to a monitoring centre is okay, but there's a couple of flaws in that argument. The first thing is monitoring centres were designed to take calls and transactional, they're fast. They weren't designed to take 100,000, 1 million calls a day from a heartbeat. A cloud service is. The second piece is that it may not be the monitoring centre that we need to tell if something's wrong. So if a unit is missing a polling signal, if a battery is low, so the unit's been unplugged, it's actually the commissioner or the person that looks after that unit that needs to know. So we can send an email, we can send an SMS, we can send a communication, not just to the monitoring centre. So it means that monitoring centres can start worrying and concerning themselves about delivering the service that they're paid to deliver, rather than other things, which actually is informing somebody else that something needs doing. I think that's going to be important moving forward. And the last thing is, at the moment, we can report battery, mobile signal carrier, we can interrogate the unit, we can programming, let's see what's programmed to it. So there's a whole bunch of data that we can get out of this. And this is only going to expand and get more and more as we upgrade the firmware in the unit. So I think that's my last piece. It was almost my last line. So if you're interested in becoming a pilot customer, we'd love to hear from you. So the idea here is that we can run a 2-month pilot, and as a customer, we can give you between 1 and 5 units, depending on how many units you need, how big a pilot you want to run. And we'd really love to hear all of your feedback about the unit, good and bad, so that we can compile that, we can get some use cases, we can get some case studies. And after you've run the pilot, then you're free to keep the units. Now, just a caveat around that, for the time of the pilot, we're happy to pay the SIM charges. Once the pilot's over, to keep the unit, you will need to pay for the SIM charges. I just want to be clear about that from day one. But we're really keen to get evaluation from our customers. We're really keen to hear from you and understand what's good, what's bad, and how we move forward with this unit. So if you're interested in becoming a pilot customer, please contact local business development manager, so John, Dave, Gareth, or Tina. If you haven't got their details, please drop me an email. So that's mark.stratford@appello.co.uk, and we'll get you sorted out. That is my last slide.
It is. So we've got over 30 questions, so I take it from that this has stimulated a bit of interest. Well, we had hoped that, so let's try and plough through them as quickly as we can. Ian, if you can start reading them out for us. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to try and group a few of them, but just because there's so many, let's just plough on as quick as we can.
Definitely. So the first question that we have is, how long would the unit be out of action whilst updates are applied?
Mark, I mean, it's not out of action, is it?
No, it's not out of action. So what we do is we apply the updates to a separate piece of memory in the unit. Once the update's applied and the unit's agreed that there's an update, then it flips to the second update. So there's two caches on the unit. So it's not out of action. We apply the update. Once the update's applied, the unit switches to the updated firmware. And
okay.
the peripherals will work while that process is going on.
Great stuff. Keep on going, Ian.
And can SmartLife work with different manufacturers' peripherals at the same time?
Yes.
Keep going, Ian.
And does SmartLife need to be monitored by Appello?
No. We'd love it to be, but it doesn't need to be. And I just so that we're clear on that, any platform that's already monitoring analog can monitor it. We hope we wish most platforms were digital, but we know they're not. And so those that are properly proven to handle SCAPE or now IP will be able to handle it in digital format.
Next question is, can it do voice prompts?
No, not at the moment.
And how is the connection secured when you use the fixed Ethernet connection?
TLS. So we use TLS over open internet. So as long as your monitoring center provider has implemented TLS, then you've got encrypted end-to-end signaling. And
on encryption, what sort of encryption is used? Manufacturers talk about using VPNs and APNs to achieve this, but our IT section believe this isn't strong enough.
Yeah, absolutely right. So that's why we use TLS encryption. Even over an APN, we can use TLS encryption if we want to, even over a private APN.
Next question is, does SmartLife allow personal recipients to receive alarms, or is it just alarm monitoring centers that can receive a call?
Yes, we can put personal recipient numbers in as well.
Next question is, will you be offering a maintenance package for the device after any warranty period? If so, will this include engineer visits if required?
Yes.
Use the term transceiver. Is this the same as bidirectional?
Yes, it is.
Can SmartLife be branded to individual providers?
Difficult, because it has the scale we're manufacturing it at. It comes with the Appello logo, but if there's a large enough quantity, then the answer can be yes.
Will the care pendants currently compatible with the SLS system also work with the SmartLife units?
Yes, they will.
Yes.
Next question is, how easy is this to program?
It's one of the things we've been really keen to make sure that it is dead easy. So in terms of programming peripherals, it's a button press, exactly the same as you see on other manufacturers, where you hold down a button for a certain amount of time, it goes into program mode, you trigger peripheral. In terms of remote programming, it's on a device management portal. and everything's in plain English. So it's either ticking a box to select a protocol, or it's putting an ID unit in. So it's really, really straightforward, and everything is plain English.
Brilliant. And will SmartLife work with Bluetooth hearing aids?
No reason why not, although we haven't tested it to date.
So the next question is, do telecare triggers not need to be upgraded as part of the digital switch?
No, as long as the triggers are an 869 trigger, they're going over a radio protocol. So all they're doing is sending a radio trigger signal to the unit. It's actually the unit dialing to the monitoring center that is the issue with the digital transition.
And that's one of the reasons that it was so important for us to try and create interoperability so I think it would be fair to say Tunstall have more peripherals out there than any other manufacturer. Care are a successful brand and growing their footprint. We don't currently have interoperability with TimeTech or devices, but that's something we're considering further. And it was because of that existing ability, or that requirement, that capability for existing peripherals to still be used beyond the digital switchover, assuming that they are fit for purpose, then throwing them away or having to invest is just both a financial and an environmental carnage if it can be avoided, which is why interoperability was so important to us.
Excellent. Still lots of questions to go. So with the I'm OK function, is this something the Appello Monitoring Centre will see and monitor?
This is actually monitored in Appello HQ. So you don't need an Appello Monitoring Centre to be able to monitor this, because it's part of the cloud service. It can be monitored by anybody that has the privileges and a browser to log onto it.
But we could do it as a paid service as well, yes.
How far into testing are Appello with Tunstall's PNC ARC?
So the first thing is the unit signals BS8521 analog protocol. So if you have that analog protocol enabled on your PNC, it will work into your PNC ARC. In terms of digital testing, I'm afraid we haven't been able to test with PNC. We have tested and completed our testing with JonTech and with UMO and with CareNet, our own platform.
Does SmartLife use the same encryption as SLS and Smart Connect?
SmartLife and SLS both use TLS encryption. So it's the same.
Next question is, somebody's interested in being a pilot customer. When would this be possible?
We're looking for early to mid-August.
What's the cost of the SIM and when does the charge start?
So we're still finalising the pricing. We expect to announce that nearer to the launch date in August. We're targeting having pricing confirmed by June. What we will say is that we are very focused on ensuring that this product is extremely competitive against other offerings that are out there. So whatever you're currently paying, use that as a rough benchmark if it's an analog product, and if it's a digital product, then potentially this would be priced less than that.
Will SmartLife be able to cope with more complex telecare peripherals, for example, a timed door sensor?
Yes, it will. So that's going to be in the next phase, which we back end of this year. I expect to see that in November, December time.
Can this be connected to smoke detection?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Is this the only unit to have a PSTN broadband and 4G connectivity?
I can't speak for other manufacturers. It's the only unit that I know of that has all of that. Now, there may be another one out there that I don't know of.
And I think we touched on this already, but can SmartTEC peripherals be linked to the system?
Not currently.
Can you set multiple activation windows per device?
Not sure I understand that. Mike, could you drop me a note separately? We'll have a chat.
It could be around the I'm okay functionality. I'm not quite sure.
So if it's I'm okay, then yes.
Okay, some companies talk about VoLTE. Is this the same as VoIP, and what does SmartLife use?
No, it's not the same as VoIP. So VoLTE is technology that service providers use. So even though it's a voice over IP type call, there's still a call charge attached to that type of call. With voice over IP, there's no call charge because you're consuming the data that comes with the SIM or across the broadband. So there's a clear distinction between voice over IP, which is data driven, and zero call charges, to VoLTE, which comes from your service provider. So VoLTE is a Vodafone, a O2 service, not a service that comes from the originating piece of equipment.
What are the charges for calls made?
Everything's voice over IP, so there's no call charges. Unless you're in analog mode. So if you're in analog mode, it's plugged into a PS10 line, there's a standard telephone call in exactly the same way as an analog unit. But in digital mode, everything we use is voice over IP, unless your service provider, so if your monitoring center provider uses a callback or a call out, then there's a separate charge. But in our test with JonTech and our test with Umo and CareNet, we've used voice over IP.
There's a few more questions around pricing. So Tim, Mark, don't know if you wanted to expand any more, offer any more on pricing.
I think we've been clear. We're aiming to be competitively priced. We know very clearly where the market price points are, and we're looking to make sure that we are very much in that mix. I think it's fair to say that no customer will choose not to buy Smart Alert based on pricing, or Smart Alert or SmartLife based on pricing.
Is the SIM a roaming SIM without network steering?
Yes.
Yes. That was an important feature for us.
Given the problems with SIMs being disabled when not used, does a dormant SIM still activate even after an extended period of time?
Yes, and the problem with dormant SIMs or SIMs being disabled is with M2M SIMs. The SIMs we use are specifically M2M. However, they are for this type of industry. So we use a CSL dual-com SIM, and CSL dual-com do not ever disable any of our SIMs. So the SIM will stay dormant and will light up when it's ready, even if it's 2 years.
Brilliant. Next question is, we have a BT1 phone network using 3-digit extension numbers in conjunction with mobile numbers. Can this be used as an internal SIM on SmartLife units? We currently use GSM adapters to provide analog connections to analog lifelines, so this would be a game-changing option going forward for remote locations.
If I'm understanding it right, Ron, then yes, but I'll give you a shout afterwards and we'll just talk it through to make sure we're clear. But can we use 3-digit extensions in conjunction with mobile numbers? Yes, because we can put a pause into the dialing number. Can we use the SIM as a GSM dial? Then yes. Can we send analog through it? Yes. But we'll just talk it through just to make sure.
Is it possible to offer different levels of service depending upon what features are used? For example, emergency alarms or emergency alarms and I'm okay, or I'm okay just on its own?
So the pricing will be consistent irrespective of which functionality is chosen. The functionality is inherent in the device. It's down to the provider to decide which of those they think are appropriate for their end service user.
I'll group the next two questions. So does the unit have a hardwired output? And the next question is around a hardwired input.
So yes, it has both, has hardwired inputs and it has hardwired outputs.
How many different call routes can be programmed into SmartLife?
That's a really good question. So we can have multiple telephone numbers that dials in terms of analog. It can go to multiple IP addresses, and it can go to different IP addresses depending on the media. So I don't know what the total number would be, but probably 9 or 12, I would have thought.
Can I swap to this unit now and not worry about the digital switchover occurs, and the unit will change to 4G once the PSTN line voltage disappears?
Yes.
Do you envisage adding a reminder functionality, or are you, as others, seeing there are alternative options out there, such as Echo?
So we are considering how automated reminders, either by a proactive call from the monitoring center or delivered in a different way, can be part of the service. So if you want to get in touch, we'll explain some of the options that we think exist in that environment.
Do you have a silent button and making the unit silent, as we work with a lot of DV customers?
Yes, so it can silent dial. That's in the program. It's just not actually a button. You program the unit to be a silent dial.
And how many peripherals can be programmed into the unit?
Theoretically 99, although there's no reason why we couldn't program more than 99. It's just about location codes, really. If it's digital, you can get more. If it's analog and you're on BS8521, you're subject to 99 location codes.
What hardwired offerings do Appello offer? I know we've covered this already.
Yeah, I think Smart Living Solutions and Smart Connect are our hardwired offerings, and depending on whether the housing provider is looking to upgrade the quality of living experience and improve asset value, or whether they're looking to just simply replace what they already have with a digital and slightly better featured version, Smart Connect or Smart Living Solutions will fit the bill brilliantly.
Great. I'm just going to switch over into the chat because we've got some questions in here also. So does SmartLife operate with Tunstall peripherals? Well, I think we've covered that. That's a yes. Does SmartLife work with Doro peripherals too?
No,
not right now.
Does the SmartLife unit come SIM-free for 4G connectivity? And if not, is the roaming capability a UK SIM-based device?
So we're not envisaging selling it SIM-free, but we're happy to talk about it. In terms of the 4G SIM, it's a 4G SIM. It is a roaming SIM. By nature of the device, a roaming SIM has to be not native to the country of origin. However, in terms of call costs, it comes with UK call costs. That's really important. So if you are dialing into it, you're not paying international calls on these things.
Do you class digital as via SIM or broadband?
Both.
Both.
Okay, Mark, you mentioned that the device can be set to automatically switch to digital using the SIM if it detects a loss of analog line provision. Would it be able to distinguish between a permanent removal of the previous telephone line and a temporary loss, e.g. if the customer simply encountered problems with their line provider?
No, not right now. So if the voltage goes, it switches to digital and it stays in digital mode, unless it's reconfigured. But you're still going to pay at least 1 month's worth of SIM charge, and then you would have to inform us, and we'd have to inform the SIM supplier to put the SIM back. So it's not the idea of the unit is even if there is a power fail or the local telephone fails, it switches to digital and it stays there.
So it switches to digital via cellular.
Yes, via cellular.
Next question is, I assume this means if using third-party peripherals that 2 SLAs will be required.
I'm not entirely sure about the nature of that query, but if there is an existing SLA in place with the peripherals, then I would assume that that would roll over. So hopefully that answers the question, but it's not I'm not absolutely certain on what the scenario would be.
Right, Mark, I think you covered this one earlier, but just to go back over it, does it have a battery backup?
Yes, it's standard 24-hour battery backup with 30 minutes usage, and we have we will by the end of the year have an extended battery option as well.
Excellent. Interesting question. Can you clarify whether you are talking about compatibility with Tunstall, analog, or digital peripherals, or both?
There's no difference. A peripheral is a peripheral. So a peripheral signals across a radio network. So it's a radio protocol that is not affected by the analog digital switchover. So the peripheral uses a standard radio trigger. It goes to the device and it triggers a call. It's when the device is signaling through to the monitoring center that the digital is important.
Great. And what call monitoring platforms can this go through to?
I think we've covered that already, but SmartTEC, UMO, CareNet, and as and when Tunstall are fully integrated with Now IP, we would expect it to go through to any Tunstall-based platform as well.
Can you ring out the SmartLife unit to auto-connect to the client? Many digital devices don't have this feature currently, but this would be a great benefit to us as part of the TSA.
So the answer is yes, you can call out to the unit, you can connect to it, or you can leave. So if we reprogram the unit, you can leave a programming set in the cloud. When the unit pulls in, it'll pick the programming set up and changes parameters. You can actually physically initiate a call, yes.
Are you considering working with alerted products?
No reason why not.
Yeah, no reason why not.
We often have a lifeline within the service for when people have home alone time, but are also required a paging/mobile alert system to go to night staff on site. Do you have this option available?
We don't have a paging option, but what you could do is you could use a recipient number, so you could dial a mobile telephone number and get it to dial a different number at night. But I don't think we've got a kind of local paging option.
And last question in the chat is, you mentioned the alarm can be remotely switched to digital. How is this done?
You dial into the unit lights the SIM up, and as soon as the SIM connects to the device monitoring platform, then we've got a digital connection, and then we just tell it to switch to digital.
Great.
And
oh, sorry, go on. And there's a few more questions back in the Q&A now. So is the alarm supplied with a pendant?
It can be supplied with or without a pendant. We're really happy for you to reuse existing pendants, or we're happy to supply it with a pendant.
All the usual caveats apply about length of usability of existing pendants and how appropriate it would be to expect them to continue for a defined period of time. But yes, in terms of compatibility, either.
Does the Appello DMP allow reporting from third-party API?
Yes, it will. So right now, once we on day of launch, the answer is no, because the APIs won't be complete. But by the end of the year, we expect the APIs to be complete.
Can SmartLife auto answer calls from the monitoring center?
Yes.
Could you use the hardwired output to drive a pager service? Pager device, yeah. Sorry.
All it is set normally closed contact. So as long as the pager service receives a whole free contact, then yes.
Sorry, another pager-related question. If you don't have a pager system that SmartLife can be connected to, can one use a Tunstall Care Assist pager?
I don't know is the answer, because I don't know how the Care Assist works.
We'll do a bit of research on that one and provide you an answer privately.
And I think this is the last question. What DMP platform is going to be used?
So we've designed and built the device management portal. So it will be an Appello platform. But to be clear about this, because I think this is a really good question. We've used standard protocols. So in terms of platform protocols from the unit, but we will also allow APIs into the platform. So it's already integrated into our CareNet platforms in terms of programming. We can go straight to the programming platform from the CareNet user interface. And what we're hoping to do is talk to JonTech, Umo, and Tunstall if they're interested, and we can actually give them some access to the platform as well to make it seamlessly easy to program the unit.
A couple more questions coming in, an interesting one here. Is there not a problem with mixing suppliers, i.e. Tunstall blaming Appello, Appello blaming Tunstall for a failure?
I mean, of course it's a risk. However, weighing up the benefits of reusing existing equipment versus buying and installing entirely new equipment, I think it's one of the things that will have to be taken in balance against the, all the other rather compelling benefits.
What type of protocol is being used on the DMP? Is it TR069?
Yes, it is.
Do you need a SIM if you use Wi-Fi? What is the SIM charge? I think we may have covered some of this before.
Yeah, so the SIM charge we're working on. Ideally, you would still have a SIM. Wi-Fi is not a stable technology. It's not always available. It's complementary connectivity rather than a primary connectivity.
Yeah, it was considered as an additional point of resilience as opposed to a primary path. I've just thought about a bit of an additional information regarding the previous question about interoperability, and one of the things that Appello have always been a leader in is being able to remotely diagnose the nature of on-site challenges or issues with our digital systems. So in terms of the clarity about where issues may result, because we can and do have data points on exactly what a device is doing, that will help eradicate any or minimize the risk that there is any confusion about where a point of failure may be. And it comes back to that heart beating that Mark was talking about earlier.
And just to follow on the question on TR069, TR069 is the most popular used DMP system for internet connected devices. Is that why Appello have decided to use that?
We decided to use it for a number of reasons. One, it's very feature rich. Two, it's an open protocol. So again, when we decide to share this, we can share, as well as sharing the device management platform, we could reasonably share the protocol with other manufacturers as well. So then you start reducing the number of device management platforms required. And can I just say that Ron Trudgett has come to my aid. So from the last question, he said, if Tunstall peripherals are used on SmartLife, they can also be programmed side by side to Tunstall Care Assist, as they both work in conjunction with any alarm activation. And Ron's an absolute expert in this field, so completely trust that answer.
And we've also had confirmation that we can confirm that the new Care Pager will operate seamlessly with SmartLife also.
There we are.
Great stuff.
And last question then, I believe. If a customer phone line cut out temporarily and the unit was programmed to divert to digital via SIM when it identifies a loss of phone line, would SIM charges applied to the customer from that point.
Yes.
As you know, the price of having the safety net of peace of mind. But we are, as we've mentioned before, we're very focused on making sure that SIM charges are competitive against those that are currently out in the marketplace.
Brilliant. I believe we have covered all of the questions.
Well, I would thank everybody who's taken the time and energy to ask a question. That's certainly a record for us in terms of how many we've had to handle, and we take that as a sign of very significant interest in the product. I think hopefully, as most of our answers were in the positive, it has given you very much food for thought about how Smart Life, Smart Alert, Smart Living Solutions, or Smart Connect might fit into your digital upgrade strategy. We'd be very, very pleased to talk in more detail on a customer by customer basis. So please do get in touch, either direct with Mark or myself, or with Ian, or with your account business development member if you have one. Thank you very, very much for making the time. We hope you found this useful, and we look forward to follow-ups. We'll be doing more sessions over the coming months, and I think it'd be quite helpful actually if we did a little video on how to use the device management platform to be able to show over-the-air reprogramming and so on. So we'll give some thought to how we might demonstrate that for you to bring some of these features to life. Thank you again very much for your time, for your interest, and we look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.